It's the NBA on BFA. I'm Zach Martin along with Sean Grennan, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about as we get ready for the NBA Finals, in which you have the Golden State Warriors against the Toronto Raptors. But before we get into that game, Sean, I would like you to go over some of the latest rumors about who's going where, and then we'll get to the Knicks and Lakers, because I find those two teams very interesting, and we'll talk a little bit about the NBA draft before we wrap things up about this particular NBA Finals matchup. So let's start first with some of the rumors that are going around at who's going where.
Well, we could just start at the top. Obviously, the two biggest names out there right now is obviously Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So you have those two, and all the speculation we've heard so far is that there's going to be some sort of meeting up in New York. Now, obviously, a lot of these New York fans are hoping that residence is with the Knicks. But, the Nets in Brooklyn are a very hot destination as well. And a lot of people have been speculating that. So, as of right now, again, like you said, it's really all rumors and speculations. But even the bets makers have the Knicks, top 5 in winning the championship next year, I believe. So, They seem to be pretty convinced that.
Wait a minute. Repeat that again. What did you just say about the Knicks? What? Repeat that again, please.
These bets makers, odds makers, have the Knicks as finishing as a top team next year in the league. That I've read on some websites and some articles. So these people seem to believe that it's some sort of a lock that they will be getting some superstars this offseason, whether that is Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving, or potentially a trade for Anthony Davis. So we obviously don't know, but it seems to be that the rumors are out there and enough people believe it.
Well, the bookmakers, I think, are just putting the cart before the horse. I mean, how do you make that kind of prediction when you don't even know what the future plans of either organization is or who's going where? That's kind of strange to me. I think about the Knicks this past season. It was the most boring basketball that I've ever seen out of the Knicks. I went to one game, fell asleep in the third period, went to Jimmy's Barbecue and went home because I just couldn't stand what was going on. And then you have the L.A. Lakers, which are also at the basement. And finally, L.A. Laker fans understand what it's like to be a New York Knicks fan. That's my assessment of that. Now, we do have one guy who listens to this show on a regular basis, the NBA on BFA with Sean Grennan. I'm Zach Martin, and that's Dr. Kenneth Bach, big-time Knicks fan. He's given me constant texts about what we can expect out of the Knicks. One question that he has, like everybody else, are we getting KD, Kevin Durant, for the New York Knicks? In your judgment, you've been watching this league for a long time. You grew up watching this league. What do you think is the percentage of probability? And we'll just say like anywhere from 85% to maybe a 95%. You give us that kind of a gauge on your part as Kevin Durant coming to the Knicks, what that would look like and what would be the players involved.
Right. Well, there's people out there that I've read that, seem to believe that it's a 99% chance that he's going to wind up in New York. So, I'm sure that gets some people giddy. I don't know if this NBA playoffs is going to have any indication on that, whether they win or lose or whatnot. It seems to me like he's going to move on. There's the story out there that, it seems like ever since Kevin Durant has gotten to the Warriors, it's always been the Warriors and Kevin Durant, and that, the media hasn't viewed him as part of the Warriors as much as he would have liked. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how much weight that's been held over KD's head this whole time, that he doesn't seem like he's really been a part of this organization, though he's, it's almost single-handedly the reason they won the last years, and granted, the great play from the team. That said, it looks like it's like an 85% chance, somewhere up in that high ballpark, that he's moving on, and most likely the Knicks will be that destination. Now, as exciting as that is for Knicks fans, I don't believe that is enough to propel them to great heights that they'll need to get to in the East. So they're obviously going to have to attract other players, whether that may be Kyrie Irving, which a lot of people are hoping and expecting, or possibly a trade for Anthony Davis. I think if they can trade for Anthony Davis, I think that's something that I would explore. Obviously they'd be giving up their pick.
They'd be giving up their third pick in the draft is what you're saying.
Right. They'd be giving up their third pick in the draft and probably a lot more. Maybe, their rookie this year that they got, Kevin Knox.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some more future picks that they got in trades, I believe, with the Mavericks, with the Porzingis trade. So they'd be giving up a lot. But, Anthony Davis, he's a special player. And, he's done some remarkable things on the New Orleans team. And I think it's kind of been overshadowed because it's in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And he hasn't made much of a playoff run, so this time of year nobody's talking about him. And playoffs makes a difference when it comes to individuals' value because everybody's watching the playoffs. Not everybody's watching the regular season, particularly teams that aren't from your city. If you're from New York, you're not watching the Pelicans games.
No, we're not. Well, actually, most of us are not even watching the NBA Finals at this point. All right, the ratings are in the toilet. And I think if you're a major league, whether it's the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, you name it, you have to have some teams from the biggest cities in the country do well enough that they're perennial favorites to win it all, right? They got to be up in the discussion. When the Giants and the Jets, specifically when the Giants aren't in the playoffs, I'm going to tell you, most people in this area are like, I'm done watching football for the season. Even, you might casually get into the Super Bowl. When the Yankees and or the Mets are not part of the discussion, again, we lose interest. And as far as the NHL goes, if you don't have a local team that's headed into the playoffs with the NHL, you got Ungats and a shingle. It's not looking good for the NHL. And as in regard to the NBA, if we're a little bit closer to getting to the playoffs, it was more compelling, then maybe you drag some people into it. But I think most of the people I've been talking to, Sean, are not really interested in this NBA final. And what are the ratings? And what have the ratings been throughout the playoffs? Not very good. I've heard that they lost a lot of audience and a lot of shares. I guess, it is what it is. And as far as Kevin Durant coming to the Knicks, I really do like the idea of the trading the third round pick for Davis because what would be sitting at number 3? We'll get to that in a little bit. The only caveat I have in regard to that kind of a deal is that this is what the Knicks used to do in the old days. And it would 9 times out of 10, it went okay. But sooner or later, it blows up in your face, right? So you got to be very careful with those kind of trades because I get it. You want to win now. But if you win now, what are you forsaking 3 to 4 years down the road? That's got to come into play. And there's why they pay these general managers, the guys that make the deals, so much money. In regard to Kevin Durant coming to the New York Knicks, I would say that part of the deal, and it would probably be directed by Kevin himself, he would want to tell the Knicks what he's looking for as far as a supporting cast. Am I right about that?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. There's no doubt that, those type of negotiations are being had, if not having happened already. I'm sure he's spoken to Kyrie about things and potentially maybe some of these other free agents that are out there. I mean, it is a loaded free agency class. I mean, you got another guard in Kemba Walker, who, had a career year for himself, and there's been some speculation as far as where he's going to end up. Mm-hmm. Obviously, most likely leaving Charlotte. Could he end up in as a Knick in New York, or there's been some rumors that are linking him to the Lakers in LA. There's the Jimmy Butler talk. Where is he going to end up?
Well,
there's a lot of solid free agents this year that should be very interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring up the Lakers too much, other than the comparison of now Laker fans know what it feels like to be a Knicks fan, but it looks like a hot mess with the Los Angeles Lakers, right? I mean, like what? Where do they go from here? And then there were rumors that LeBron James might be leaving. I don't know how accurate those rumors are. I don't know whether there's any truth to it. But let me just say this, Sean. This is how it goes. The rumors are usually put out by the person themselves. They have maybe their PR person. Let's test the waters. Let's see what happens if we put this rumor out there. What kind of response, what kind of reaction are we going to get? But let's leave that on the table right now. We won't talk about the Lakers. We won't talk about the Knicks. As promised, we're going to move over to the NBA draft. Give me your assessment of, other than the trade happening, which I think I kind of like that idea with the Pelicans and the Knicks. Other than a trade happening, what do the first top 5 picks look like to you?
Well, it's very clear that Zion Williamson's going number 1, New Orleans, unless there's some sort of trade that happens there, which I don't really see happening with New Orleans. Maybe had the Knicks got the first pick, I think they were all set on taking Zion as well. Moving on to Memphis at number 2, it's believed by many that they already locked in taking, star point guard Ja Morant from Murray State. He had a phenomenal year, and he played great in the March Madness tournament. I think that's a great pick for Memphis. I think he's a versatile player. He doesn't have to be locked in as the point guard, and with them having Mike Conley there, I'm not sure how much longer Mike will be around, but it gives them some hope towards the future. And I think for the Knicks, I think their pick is pretty locked in at the 3rd. I think they're going to take Zion's teammate R.J. Barrett from Duke. I think he's the best player available. Another versatile player who can score the ball, who's a pretty solid defender, and he can make plays happen. So I think, if the Knicks keep their pick, I think that's who they're looking at is R.J. Barrett. And again, unless a trade comes, I think that's their safest pick. After those 3, I really think it opens up a bit. I still think there's a lot of talent left in the draft. I don't think that there's a set order as to where the Lakers want to go at number 4. I've heard that they like both DeAndre Hunter from Virginia. I've heard they like Darius Garland, another point guard from Vanderbilt. Just to rattle off some more players, there's Jared Kohler from Texas Tech, who's very solid. And then a couple more guards, Kobe White from North Carolina and Cameron Reddish from Duke, who I really like. I think he's a guy that got overshadowed a little bit, having 2 teammates as great as Zion and R.J. Barrett. So I think he kind of was cast off in the back a little bit. But I think Cameron Reddish could be a very solid NBA two-way player. A lot of the style of today's games is, 3 and D, being able to shoot the 3 very well and play solid perimeter defense.
Everybody likes a high-scoring 3-point game, right? It's just like, boom, you get all excited about that. Yeah.
Yes, and I think Cameron Reddish can do both of those things very well. So, they have him projected going around 7-8 right now, but I think Cameron Reddish could be a sleeper pick. We usually see it every year, guys that fall not extremely late, but, around that 10 spot, these guys go around then, and then, they end up being maybe one of the top 3 players in that draft. So that's how I see the draft. Again, we still have time. It's not till June 20th. And I think that, I think that there could be some trades going on. I would not be shocked if New York does make some noise and possibly trade that 3rd pick. And
why not?
Maybe some of the other picks that they have for a potential Anthony Davis. So,
I wouldn't go crazy. I wouldn't go crazy giving away too many picks. I think a nice first rounder that early in the draft is more than fair, and then maybe give them a later 3rd round pick, right? So your 1st and the 3rd. But here's what I like to do. I'm going to give you an assignment for the next time we have NBA on BFA with Sean Grennan and Zach Martin. I want you to look over the past couple years and the top 10 draft picks and see what happened as an end result, like what people were saying before, during, and then what actually happened after. Okay, there's just a little assignment for you, Sean. I think that'd be a lot of fun to look at, because then we could bring that in as part of the discussion with the upcoming draft on June 20th. Now, here's one other item I want to throw out there, because you mentioned where the Lakers are picking. Is there a chance? Remember, earlier on in the season, there was this idea of sending Davis to the L.A. Lakers from the Pelicans. Is there a chance that the Lakers will do a blockbuster trade to match up Davis with the Lakers and trade away their draft pick?
I think there's no doubt that they would pull the trigger. I think they've made it very clear that, that's something that they were willing to do. It doesn't seem that the New Orleans wants to play that game. It seems very clear that, they did not want to send AD to the Lakers at all. And I still think that that's their I think that's their stance right now. It seems that, they're still trying to do all they can to want to convince Anthony Davis to stay. Their GM Griffin is, met with AD just yesterday, I believe. They had breakfast and they spoke about things and trying to reshape the future, really, and portray a different image for Anthony Davis to convince him to stay.
Well, maybe what they need to do is grab a hold of Drew Brees and bring him in for the discussion. Say, let me tell you what New Orleans is all about here, Mr. Davis, right? That'd be good.
He's been there long enough. I think he has a clear idea. And, I think it's fair that if he does want to move on, I think he should be able to. And, again, New Orleans is in a great spot right now to really rebuild their entire roster. And I think, the haul that they could get from New York or maybe somebody else for Anthony Davis, I think is huge. So, for them, with already having the number one pick and, clearly going to be able to take Zion, to possibly get, the third pick in the draft from New York or the fourth from the Lakers or
oh my gosh, yeah, you're right. That would be killer.
I mean, they could really, really, really reload and rebuild their team and quickly, more quickly than most teams take. So New Orleans is in a great position to really do whatever they want.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine getting the first and the third, or the first and the fourth, plus maybe the third and second rounder along with that deal? I mean, yeah, you'd be loaded for bear, and you'd be very difficult to deal with, and you'd be playoff bound. That's for sure. Now, and that's assuming that everybody stays healthy and you don't have some sort of freak injury. That's always a possibility, right?
Yep.
Now,
yep.
I'll tell you. I said this before, and I'll say it again. I can't stand this whole lottery system for the draft. Boy, I just think it's bogus because look at how many times the Knicks have been in the chase for that and never really worked out. The last time I remember that working might have been with Patrick Ewing. I can't even remember the last time that they really made out like bandits in the draft. And like I said earlier, New York's got to have a competitive basketball team, and the Knicks got to be in the discussion along with the Nets to really gain that television audience. And that's got to be in the back of the mind. If I was the NBA commissioner, I'd be thinking about that. Now let's move over to the NBA Finals. I never expected Toronto to make it into the finals. I thought it was going to be the Bucks, and I thought it was going to be the Warriors. We got the Warriors, and we got Toronto. So give us a little bit of the insight that you can offer regarding of what we can expect during the final.
Well, it's going to be a different finals than what we're seeing the last, 4 or 5 years, with it being the Warriors versus LeBron. So I think we're in for a little treat, and then it's going to be a different game entirely that we're seeing. I think the Raptors propose a different style that the Warriors are obviously used to seeing in the finals the last few years. They're a very good defensive team, Toronto. Probably underlooked a little bit defensively. They're very long. When the addition of Marc Gasol, I think, though he hasn't been crazy offensively helping them out, I still think he's a great leader on the defensive end and a veteran that can help, have guys in the right position against the team like the Warriors that they're going to have to be in. So obviously Kawhi is playing out of his mind. He's playing unreal. Jordan-esque almost. But to me, even with or without Kevin Durant, I just think the way the Warriors play and the way they've been playing these last two series is it's just such a high level of basketball that no one else in the league plays at. Toronto obviously is very, very reliant on Kawhi, and they have been all playoffs. And what he's been able to do has been phenomenal. But I just don't see that being enough to get past the Warriors. It's obviously huge that the Raptors have home court advantage, having the better record this year by one game. So they're going to need all the help they can get with their fans in Toronto. But that said, you have two unbelievable defenders in Golden State and Draymond Green and Iguodala that, are going to make it as hard as it can for Kawhi to do what he's been doing. So that said, Toronto, these other guys are really going to have to step up if they want to have any chance against Golden State.
All right, so give us a prediction of who's going to win and how many games.
It's tough because, I always want to say the Warriors in 4.
4 straight?
4 straight. I mean,
really?
I don't know if I really believe that, but that's what I want to say because, just the way that they're capable of playing at a consistent level, if they can do that, there's just no chance. But we saw them in the first round against the Clippers. What a tough-minded team, a tough mindset can do against the Warriors. So obviously, we got to find out where Kevin Durant is. He's obviously not playing Game 1. Not sure if he'll be available for Game 2, and we'll go from there. But I can see the Raptors winning 1 or 2 games. So It's tough. Could be Warriors in 4, could be Warriors in 6. Who knows? I mean, who knows? Maybe the Raptors shock the world and they stun the Warriors. But
well,
I don't know.
I kind of got a feeling about this. You want to know what I think? I think it's going to go to 7 games. I think it's going to be a toss-up. And if Toronto wins the whole thing, it's going to be some sort of like last-second weirdo shot that comes out of nowhere, sort of like the Giants beating the New England Patriots in a Super Bowl. It's going to be one of those kind of things. I think it's going to go 7. And you know what? We're overdue for a compelling series. It would be really exciting, and I think that it would do wonders for the ratings. Well, that's all the time we have for the NBA on BFA with Sean Grennan. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, which is now available on iTunes, Big Fat American. It's also available on Spotify, Big Fat American. Tune in, coming soon to radio.com, and I think a few other outlets. You can always follow us at facebook.com/Big Fat American Sports. Check out our entertainment and rock page, Big Fat American, which is Big Fat American. And Twitter at Zach Martin Rocks. Until next time, you just got it going on with the NBA on BFA.